What's up, traders? So as you know, in the past I've talked about the current strategy that I use, and it's based on the broken wing butterfly. I've tested those very thoroughly, but I'm also just trying to always look at different things that can be done, different ways that we can improve our probabilities, and just refine the trading that we're performing. So one thing that I've been testing out a little bit, and I got some ideas from some feedback and some things that I had thought of, is a strategy that I'm now calling the biased Batman. And you'll see in a second why I call it the biased Batman. But the way it starts out is I still use the indicator that I had created where it gives me a bias for the day. So I explained in other videos, it's based on different factors like where the market closed the previous day, if it's gapped up on the open for this day, and that sort of thing. And it's still testing out to have a 62.6% accuracy, which is a decent edge that I can base a bias on. And that's based on 25,120 previous trading days. So I think that's a pretty good ongoing back test for that. What I do now when I'm trying out this strategy is I look at the bias for the day. So if we say it's going to be a bullish bias, then I will first put on an at the money bullish broken wing butterfly. So I use puts if it's bullish, because ideally you'd want that far out put to be out of the money. You're paying minimum for that. So that would look like this. Now this is my trade that I do on an ongoing basis, and it's a good trade. The profit and risk profile is decent. In this case, I'm looking at 185 on the runoff profit and 315 on the risk. But as I look at it, I was thinking, is there a viable way to decrease the risk on this side? Because the risk on this side it's palatable, but it's still on that threshold where it's a little bit uncomfortable based on how much we're standing to make unless we end up in this profit tent. So I used Optionsmith, and I looked at a lot of different scenarios, and one thing that I thought about is, where can I add a little bit of risk where I'm not increasing my max risk, but I can add a little bit of risk in a spot where it's unlikely or highly unlikely that the price will go, that will create more profit potential in here, and hopefully reduce a little bit of this max risk. And so if I put a broken wing butterfly going bearish out here, away from the money, far out of the money, that accomplishes that. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the expected move. Now this is based, I've mentioned this before, but it's based on the at the money price of the put and the call. That's what the market is pricing in as the expected amount that the price will end up moving from where it is. And I think there's been studies done by Tasty Trade and others that indicate it's somewhere around 60 to 70% of the time a price will end up inside of its expected move. That's why selling premium right at that spot can pay off. So that's where I'm looking to add this other broken wing butterfly. So I look at the 6, 8, I guess probably the 6885. So if I put a call broken wing butterfly at 6885 like this, and then I move this over. So this creates a Batman trade. And again, this is where I think Optionsmith is really good for just visualizing what this stuff is going to look like. And so what this is doing is it decreases my max risk because it adds the same risk on the other side because you've got the crossing profit runoff zones. It adds the two profit tents, and so if my bias is right, and this is why I call it the biased Batman, if this bias is correct and the price ends up somewhere in here, then I've got more potential that I'm going to land in a profit tent. So you have the potential of a pretty high profit in here. If it ends up in here, I'm making more than obviously than if I had just put on the one broken wing butterfly. The only drawback to this is that I'm decreasing the amount of area or potential price range that I can profit in. But that's a trade-off that I'm considering, and again, this is something that I'm freshly starting to test, and it looks like it could really be a good trade-off because you're trading off this area where it's a lot less likely. So it's stacking probabilities. You're trading off this area where it's a lot less likely the price is going to go, adding some risk there without increasing my max risk, and it's increasing the amount of profit I stand to make in the area where it's a lot more likely to end up. So it's just kind of stacking probabilities and stacking good trade-offs for this trade. So again, this is fresh, something I'm just doing a lot of testing on. It's hard to back test this because because of the way you form it, the placing of the profit tents. It's hard to get good data on whether or not on a day-to-day basis it ends up in one of these big profit tents. When the market actually does open, the expected move I'm showing this right before market open. Once it does open, the expected move tends to really go down quite a bit. So these profit tents, and actually when I did it yesterday, they ended up a lot closer. So it was almost at that point like just as likely that it would end up in a profit tent as it is that it would end up in this middle area. So this, I should say that there is no holy grail strategy. There's no strategy that's just going to obviously print money without any pain at all or without any losing days or anything like that. Trying to find that is like the worst thing to do, is to just keep trying to pursue something like that. So I don't expect this to be some kind of golden strategy, but if it's a good strategy that psychologically lets you handle the losses that occur without affecting you that much and decreasing that max loss, can do that. And also gives you a good probability of seeing profitable days or possibly a good winning streak, because you're going to have losing streaks, and you can kind of define how good of a trader you are by how you react to losing streaks. But if you have a strategy where it also provides some winning streaks, that can give you momentum and really just promote a good mental outlook on what you're doing. So again, new strategy, in a sense, just kind of adding to what I'm already doing, but just looking at data and possibly considering adding this into my daily routine. So hope you all enjoyed this, and look forward to seeing you later. Thanks.